kind of crazy to think that I grew up knowing that I'm like someday gonna like leave my country. Nobody ever mentions like, chasing your dream or like your passion, because you're almost just doing the same thing as everybody else. I went to a really competitive high school. 20,000 kids take the entrance exam, but only like 2,000 kids get in. My childhood was literally filled with studying. I was just trying to fit in, trying to be interesting and trying to make friends and trying to seem cool. It was kind of exhausting. Will I ever find like a friend? Will I find like a group to hang out with? You don't really think about everyday life. You just kind of going through the motion. But like traveling is one of those things that makes me feel like this is what I'm working for.
Hello, and welcome back to college. I'm your host, Zach Stevenson, and we've got another incredible conversation lined up today. But before we get there, I just wanted to mention that I do not run ads on this show. My vision for this podcast started simply as a way to document all the amazing people that I met during my time at college in the US. And it led me to traveling 3.5 years after I graduated back to the US to record all these in-person episodes for season 2. If you are enjoying the show, obviously make sure you're subscribed, but make sure to share this podcast with a friend or a family member who would also like to go back to college. Thanks, and on to the episode. Today, we are joined by someone whose plan from a young age was to leave her country and study abroad. She's from the chaotic city of Hanoi in Vietnam and came to the US by herself when she was just 16 years old. She graduated in 2023 with a double major in accounting and finance and is currently working as an accountant in a world-renowned firm. I really hope you enjoy this story of this person's self-discovery as we talk about the cultural differences between East and West, individualism and collectivism, and what success really looks like. It's time to go back to college with Harley. Harley Chun, welcome back to college.
Thank you.
You excited to be here?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for letting me be in your apartment. We're in Minneapolis. We've just recorded an episode with Marcus. You two live together, which is pretty cool to meet both of you after all this time away from one another. But we almost met up back in Vietnam. You're Vietnamese. That's where you grew up. And I think it was about a week I missed you by. After my long journey in Vietnam for 3 months, you and Marcus were going to be there just a week or so after I left, which was pretty sad because it would have been great to catch up there.
I know, that was such a shame.
Yeah.
But I got to see your brother, so I guess the next best person.
That's something. Well, yeah, good for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I love Vietnam, so I think it's pretty cool that you're the first Vietnamese on the podcast as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You haven't interviewed Tom yet?
No, haven't done him, but I'd love to. I would ideally like to go back to Vietnam and do it in person with him.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys are basically next door neighbors. And I think you went to the same school as well, but since you were 3 or so years apart, you didn't know each other.
Yeah.
But I saw in your story on Instagram when you posted that you were back home in Vietnam, I was like, hey, that's the building that I can see outside the back of Tom's house.
That's actually like another apartment that my mom recently bought. That's not the house that I grew up in. So, yeah. But now, if I come home, we'll probably be next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, hopefully we can all meet up at some time in Vietnam and have an Augie reunion.
That'd be really great. Yeah.
So now what are you up to in Minneapolis? What do you do here?
I work in public accounting. So just pretty normal. Yeah.
Pretty normal, not that exciting. You don't seem too enthused about it.
I love it, actually. I work with pretty young people. So like it feels almost like college because we also have a start class. So I have like maybe like 8 other people that start with me who were also just like fresh out of college. And like my supervisor or like one level above me is like a year or two older than me. So it feels really fun. So like when it's really fun, it doesn't really feel like work, even though I'm like just literally just staring at spreadsheets every day. But it could be a lot worse.
And is this the sort of job now after you graduated college? Is this a job that you imagined yourself doing before you'd even entered college? Was this sort of the pathway to where you wanted to go?
Both yes and no. I'd say like growing up, I never really had an idea of what I would like to do growing up. And like picking like accounting and finance for college was mostly for stability, I'd say. So I wouldn't call it like my passion or anything. It's just like something that happened to work at the time and it's working so far. And I like it, but it's definitely not like my end all be all. Like this is not something that I'm going to do for a really long time.
And so by stable, do you mean sort of broad enough where you're not too narrowed down and it can sort of present you with a few opportunities?
Yes, it opens up a lot of career opportunities in the future. And stable also means like it would be fairly easy for me to get a job. And that was basically what I wanted to do after college. Literally, like the whole point of going to college was to like get a job. Because the whole thing with like studying abroad, or at least for Vietnamese, is to kind of, well, some people don't want to immigrate, but a lot of us want to immigrate. And so like getting a job and staying here is almost like the final destination of studying abroad. So
right. So unpack that a little bit more for me, if you would. So, because Vietnam, I had a great time while I was there as a tourist, but I'm kind of getting the sense maybe it's not the best place to live, and maybe potentially there are more opportunities in a place like the US.
Yeah, it's really different in a way that like in the US there are a lot more opportunities for you to develop professionally, whatever career path you choose to go with. And Vietnam is definitely really, really fun to visit. And even for me, if I were to go back for a couple months, I would love to. But there's a reason why like more and more young people are wanting to immigrate. And I mean, to not get too deep into like government stuff, it's just it's fun. But like when it comes to like maybe like healthcare or like even like something like pollution, right? Pollution is becoming a big problem. So like the food that you eat, the air that you breathe in, the water that you drink.
I did notice that while I was there, especially in Hanoi, which is where you're from.
Yeah.
Going into the city, it was very polluted. Like you have to wear masks in the city just because of the air pollution.
Yeah. And if you like participate in traffic on like a bike or a moped, which what most people do, you have to like cover your face completely if you don't want to be literally covered in dust and like just breathing in polluted air all the time.
Or get a sore throat just after 5 minutes of riding down the streets. Because that happened to me one night. I took what they call it, a Grab. So like the Uber equivalent in Vietnam, where a guy just rocks up in his little green outfit and you just jump on the back of the motorbike and he takes you to your destination.
Yeah.
There's one night I was in the city and I forgot a mask. And so by the time I got back home, I had a sore throat from just the air pollution during that journey. Mm-hmm. So that's, I mean, a factor that isn't not very kind. And I think that alone is probably a good enough reason to find opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah. And also like if I like had gone to college in Vietnam and like got out and get a job, the amount of money that I would make as opposed to like if I didn't have a house and I had to rent, it would be pretty unaffordable, I'd say. So that's why like most of my friends who like are in Vietnam are still like staying with their parents. Like it's very common to live with your parents until you like get married or something.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Although I feel like there's maybe not so much in the US, but I definitely know back home, housing prices at the moment are ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So it's much easier to live with your parents until you're 30, 35 until you find a partner to settle in with.
For sure. Yeah. And if you're like, and Vietnam also has like a different culture when it comes to like marrying. So like the woman would move into the man's family. So a lot of times if I were to marry a Vietnamese guy, I would like most definitely go live with his family, especially if he's like the oldest son. He would like stay with his parents in the family house or something, and they would take care of him.
Right. That's quite a bit different to the US.
Yeah. The notion of moving in with like your like husband's
you just wouldn't do that. You'd both just go find a place by yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So did you want to describe to me, Harley, what it was like growing up in Vietnam?
Yeah. I can't speak for all Vietnamese, but I could probably like the one thing in common that I feel like we all would have, especially if my mom has always like known that she wanted to send me abroad, like almost as soon as I like enter primary school. And that was pretty common among a lot of my friends too. So that's why like we started learning English when I was in primary school. So like first, second grade. And now it's even earlier. Now some of my mom's friends' daughters or sons, like the ones that were maybe like 5 or 6 years old, sometimes they would start learning English as soon as they start learning Vietnamese because they desperately want to send their kids abroad.
Why is that?
I guess living conditions are deteriorating, right? Jobs are probably harder to get now. And as much as I love Vietnam, it's a poor country, right? So you find a lot more opportunities. And, you know, like if you want to really like say step up in life per se, you probably want, if you, of course, going abroad costs money. So, not everyone get to, but anyone who has the capacity to, they would want to go abroad.
Right. So that was sort of your path from very early on that your mother sort of encouraged and instilled in you.
Yeah.
So you always saw yourself going overseas.
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy to think that I grew up knowing that I'm like someday gonna like leave my country and settle down somewhere else completely different. So my childhood was basically filled with just extra classes. Like, and I'm pretty sure like other Vietnamese kids too, you spend like from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. at your normal school. And then you go like straight to extra class until like 9 p.m. And then you go home and then you like eat some dinner and then you do more homework and then you go to bed. And then the next day you do the same thing. And we have normal school on Saturdays. So like no Saturday off. And then the rest of Saturday and Sunday, you would like go to more extra classes. So it's like, my childhood was literally filled with just like studying.
My God, that's so different to say the US school system.
It sounds really depressed. But
it does. It sounds very depressing to me.
But the thing is like everyone around me was doing the same thing. So all the other kids were like studying too. So we're kind of had our own fun. Like we go out when we can. But pretty much everyone around me was studying. But I also maybe like was a little, I went to a really competitive high school. So like we had to take extra classes and you had to take entrance exam and like say 20,000 kids take entrance exam, but only like 2,000 kids get in. So it's like, it's really competitive. So maybe like the friends that I know and the people that I'm like used to were kind of in this group of like really ultra competitive and want to study and to go abroad.
It's sort of the top kind of 10%.
Yeah.
The people who are ambitious, who have goals to pursue a life elsewhere.
Yeah.
Abroad from Vietnam.
Yeah. So like my high school class at home, we had like 45 kids in my class. And that's only like, it's not the same as like a class here. A class here is basically everyone in your age group. So like everyone who's like freshman, sophomore together. But a class at home is just a class where you like sit in a classroom and study together. So technically my class in the American sense is maybe like 2,000 people. But my classroom was like 45 people, and maybe like 44 out of 45 are abroad right now, different countries, US, Canada.
Oh, really? So just about all
Australia.
of them are out elsewhere?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And 2,000 kids for 1 year level, that's a whole lot of kids.
Yeah.
And the fact that you filtered down from the 20,000 or so people who tried to get in to the school, so you very much are hanging out with the top, all the top talent that Vietnam has to offer, at least in the Hanoi region.
Yeah. Well, my high school is like the best high school in the country.
Is it really?
Yeah. I don't want to sound like arrogant, but it really is. Because even the kids that like don't end up going abroad, they would end up becoming like officials, government. Like a lot of people with high ranking in the government or like maybe in other companies, a lot of them like had or like went to the same high school as I did. So it's a prestigious high school, which is good, but like also comes with all of like the competition and like a lot of pressure and things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, with that studying that you're doing, 12-hour days plus Saturdays extra on Sunday, and now having come to the US, different culture and understanding, well, hey, there's other kids in high school that don't study at all outside of the few classes they have during the day.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I think that's how it is over here. So that's a reasonable amount of studying for people here. And I don't know if you knew this, but I spent my last 2 years of high school in the US.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I went abroad when I was 16. So like I spent my junior year and senior year of high school here. And that was about the easiest school I've ever had.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, no, like I was surprised at what they were learning in like math class. Like literally, like we covered that maybe in like middle school in Vietnam, and they're learning at a high school level. And it was so easy that, it's probably reasonable, but it's just, yeah.
What is that different culture and just the work ethic and the seriousness that Vietnam brings to the school system is completely different to the US?
Yeah. We were definitely very like disciplined at home when it comes to school and stuff. So when I came here and I was in high school and classes were easy and a lot of kids just kind of don't really care, which some people don't care at home too. It's just here. It's like the minority is what really focus on school and trying to get good grades and stuff like that.
So that's really interesting. That kind of flips it.
Yeah.
So you've come from a very hardworking society to a place where it's almost like, do you guys even care about this? Like, why are you bothering to show up to school if you're not like trying to learn?
Yeah. And
so how did you find that? And how did you feel about the lack of enthusiasm and the lack of intent to really push the studies and work hard?
Well, that was, I'd say at first I find it pretty strange, but then it like kind of slowly become a little liberating, I'd say, because at home, all I was supposed to think about was literally like getting good grades. But like here, you can have other things in your life. You should go play sports. You should like have a hobby. You should like learn other subjects. Like you should have fun. You should find out what is it that you really like and what is it that you really want to do. Because I don't think kids get to do that at home when they're in a really competitive environment, because then you just literally just studying to get good grades because that's what you're supposed to do. But you don't really get to think about like who you are as a person and what you like and dislike. So that's why I find it really hard when I first came here. And then I was supposed to decide what I want to learn in college, because I literally have no idea what I'm interested in or what I like. because there are like 13 subjects at home that you have to master in every grade level.
So you just kind of do everything and you really just have to be proficient in everything.
I don't like any of them. Like, I hate all of them. Because when you're forced to study, you don't really like anything. Like, English was the only thing that I like because it was a foreign language. Anything else, I'm like kind of meh. So I guess that's why I picked like finance and accounting, because it's kind of anything, like everything it's pretty black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what was that process like for coming to the US in high school? I guess, was it an international school that you went to?
Predominantly, it was a boarding school, and like 2/3 of the students were international students.
Right. So there was already some connections abroad.
Yeah. 3 of them end up going to Augie, who went to my same high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who were they?
Do you remember Gideon? He entered my same year.
From what country was he from?
Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he went to your school?
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. And
how crazy.
After you left, there were 3 more. Danny from Kazakhstan, Bellamy from Azerbaijan, and then most recent we got Dima from Russia. We all went to that same high school.
Right.
Yeah.
Dang, yeah. So that was seemingly a very good high school then.
I wouldn't say it was good. It was so weird. It was tiny, like not even 100 people, and majority of them international student who paid too much money to be there.
So what high school did you go to in the States then?
It's called North Cedar Academy in a town called Ladysmith, Wisconsin. And that town has 3,000 people. So like literally in the middle of nowhere. So it feels like we were just kind of isolated.
Well, why did you decide to go there?
I have no idea. Like, I didn't know like what I was getting myself into, because it was like an agency in Vietnam who like send kids abroad because they kind of know like schools over here, and like moms and dads don't really know anything, so they kind of need the agency to kind of like, hey, so this is how you apply, this is how you do this and that.
Well, they obviously don't know them very well if they've sent you to a tiny school in Wisconsin.
No. They were just looking to make some money this way.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. So like it almost feels like we just got tricked into this tiny school that just feels like a military school, because there was really strange rules about like not doing certain things, and they would make you do homework at a certain time. You have to go eat at a certain time and stuff like that.
That's very bizarre.
It's really bizarre. Like, I didn't even have time to process it until I was like at Augie, and I kind of like thought back about like, okay, what did I just go through in the last 2 years? I literally don't know. I was so young too. First time I was far away from home, barely 16.
Yeah, it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
To move all that way.
Yeah.
Well, before we move on to college, is there anything else that you want to share about either your schooling in Vietnam or high school experience in the US?
Maybe not high school experience in the US, but yeah. Well, I made growing up in Vietnam sounds really bad, but it was still home, and I had a great time like just being in school, because we're in school so much together that I feel like I have a really good connection with my like friends. Like, I have a childhood friends. We've literally been in the same class from like 1st grade to like 9th grade, and like some other friends that I still keep contact with. So
you build the camaraderie, not from maybe necessarily all the parties and hanging out you did, even though you hung out a bit together. But
there were absolutely no parties.
None at all.
Not at all.
My gosh.
Yeah.
But just the shared experience of doing all that studying together.
Yeah.
Even though it was really hard work, that seems to what like glued you guys together.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely don't want to do that ever again, but
once is enough.
And I guess the one good thing that I got from it is just the work ethic. Like, it wasn't hard for me in college at all to like sit down and study and do my homework. It was just what I was supposed to do. Like, the only thing I knew how to do was study. So it just, yeah.
Very much drilled into you.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great habit to have. And I know just from my personal experience, I struggled to study at college because there's so many other things going on. I was on the basketball team. That was the main focus. Then there was so many people to hang out with. So, and then all the extra training I was doing as well. So it made it difficult to actually sit down and focus on the studying.
Yeah. Well, that's the good part about college too, is that there are so many other things to do but studying. Yeah.
So how did you find Augustana then? How did you select that school out of all the other thousands of colleges in the US?
It was because of Wade.
So how did Wade find you?
I have no idea how he found me. Like, literally just one day, I think he just sent me an email about like, hey, I think you'll be a great fit for this school and here's what we have and blah, 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 blah.
Really? That's so random.
I know. And like, I just hop on a phone call with him and chat with him a little bit. And it just kind of worked out financially because I think Augie gave like the most money out of all the school that I got accepted into. So it definitely was not my number one choice. I didn't even know it existed.
So were you looking at other colleges or what?
Yeah, I was looking at a lot of other colleges. Like I was looking into like a lot on the East Coast and on the West Coast. None of them were in like the Midwest.
No.
Yeah.
So you're looking for something a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Especially after the tiny little high school town.
Like, I was so ready to kind of like almost like enter civilization almost of like just being somewhere there where there are a lot more people, because that high school was nothing like I imagined. Because I mean, also the only image of American high school I have is from like Mean Girls and High School Musical, which is not very representative of real life. But again, it was nothing like I imagined. Even Augie, I feel like, was a little not typical, because you usually think of like the big state school of like 20, 30,000 students.
And Augie had what, 2,000?
Barely. Yeah.
Very small little college in the middle of South Dakota, which is
middle of nowhere.
A tiny state by itself. The only claim to fame is Mount Rushmore. And I guess some could argue, the Corn Palace in Mitchell, that's big highlight. But I mean, come on, guys.
Mount
That's not
Rushmore
much.
was such a letdown.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of cool.
Well, I think it's because I came when they were like doing construction too. So like I didn't even get to see it fully.
That's right. On the orientation.
Yeah. So like saw it from way afar, like tiny.
Yeah, they were doing something because I was an ACE ambassador when you were a freshman. Yeah. So we couldn't walk all the way up to like underneath the, what do you call it, like sculpture, statue, Mount Rushmore itself. And there's even a walking track where you can walk underneath it and look up at their noses and see what's up there. So we kind of missed out on that. Yeah.
And I never came back. So I guess I'll never see Mount Rushmore.
That's sad.
Well, maybe seeing it on picture is better, because then if I see it in real life, it would be disappointing.
I feel like it wasn't actually as big as it looks like on the photos, because it's always blown up nice and big. But when you get there in person, you walk around the corner. It's
like an ant.
That's it? Yeah, just a little, because it follows that same rock structure, and then there's a little tiny like carving of faces on there. Yeah. It's a bit of a shock with all the small towns that you've been in.
Yeah. So I'd say my like first month at Augie, I was just a little bit disappointed, but then it got better, because then I make friends and I actually like really become. Augie grew on me in a way.
So it's a little bit difficult to start with then. Yeah,
because I had imagined myself going to these big school and exploring big cities, because I have a couple friends who go to like Boston University or like NYU, and I would go on their Instagram page and they'd be like strolling around the city with their friends and doing this and that, and I'm here like just fields and nothing. So I was a little sad.
Yeah, 100%. But so you didn't realize that it was a small school in the middle of nowhere before you, like, as you were deciding to go there?
I knew it was a small school, but I didn't know Sioux Falls. And I mean, when you kind of look up pictures, it doesn't look
It looks pretty.
Yeah, because they chose the best angle. So it doesn't look that small. But like Because when I arrived too, I arrived earlier than anybody else. So I was literally the first kid in TUF. And I was there just alone. So I was walking around and there were absolutely like maybe like a couple other people on campus. And I was like walking around because I needed like water because there wasn't any water. So I literally walked to like that Dollar Tree or something really close to grab water. And I was just like, why am I here?
This sucks.
I know. I walked and then there was just like cars and like dust and like nothing. And I was like, bro, I want to go back. Yeah.
Back to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's
somewhere else.
Plenty of people in Vietnam, that's for sure.
Oh, a lot. Sometimes you like, it feels suffocating almost about like how crowded it is. But sometimes it's nice because it feels like there are other things existing around you. And you're not just like this little thing in the middle of nowhere.
So someone who is a bit of an introvert, how did you find the craziness and the overwhelming experience of jumping into a college in the US?
I probably struggled at first, even though I probably didn't show it because I was like for the first month or two, I was trying so hard to fit in that I just kind of like, yeah, I was just trying to fit in, like trying to be interesting and trying to make friends and trying to seem cool and all of that. It was kind of exhausting, like behind the scene, because I was just kind of like wondering like, well, will I ever find like a friend? Will I find like a group to hang out with? What do other people think of me? Things like that. That now I'm just like, if I were able to go back, I would just tell myself, just relax. Nobody cares. Right.
So was there a moment then where you sort of, I don't know, maybe found some people and you're like, hey, this is actually not so bad. I kind of quite like this.
Yeah, eventually.
Can you remember a time in particular?
I can't say because I feel like deep down inside me, there's always like the little insecurity of like, do I have friends? I mean, I have friends, of course, but like.
Well, I'd like to think so. I've traveled all this way to come and see you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course I have friends. Now I'm in a different headspace from when I first entered college. But I entered college with like what a really big expectation of what my college life would be. Part of it was kind of unrealistic, but I would say I tried to make friends and I tried to do a lot of activities like clubs and stuff on campus. And, you know, being kind of like a little introvert myself, parts of it feels really exhausting. But like eventually I just kind of find my rhythm and kind of have people that I feel comfortable with and it just kind of flows.
From what I remember, your freshman year, I was a senior at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw you around like lots of places. You're always doing different things. And I think there was always sort of a group or a bit of a tribe that you're always hanging out with as well.
Yeah, I definitely had like kind of a group freshman year and they were all good friends, right? Until COVID happened. But yeah. I always find, you know how you find comfort in like a tribe, right? Like if you feel like you kind of one of them, it makes life a little easier. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
You got to find your people.
Yeah, you got to find your people.
I think that's what was so great about the international program at Augie is that we could all come together with our shared experiences, not necessarily the backgrounds we'd come from, but the experience of being in such a new and unique place. And we could kind of gravitate towards one another and help each other out.
Yeah, it almost feels like you just have an instant connection with like another international student because you're both like really far away from home, being in this place of God knows what and just kind of going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about the classes then. Did you always want to jump in to do the accounting and the finance?
Not really. I think I was just kind of ruling things out of like, I can't do anything in humanities because I'm not going to find a job with that. And I needed to find a job, I feel like, to as soon as I'm out of college. So it was like kind of either computer science or like something business related, because those you can pretty much find a job anywhere.
So you're a bit uncertain going in then?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like you have to choose something.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I wasn't really too sure what to pick.
Yeah.
So I was decided I'll do exercise science.
Yeah.
But I ended up with psychology and business, so completely different.
Yeah. I feel like the business majors are literally just for like undecided.
Yeah, it's almost like the unofficial undecided degree. Exactly.
I don't know what I want to do, so I'm just doing this for now.
Yeah, which is fair enough. And so you said that you found the classes pretty easy then with all your study habits.
Well, some higher level accounting classes were a little harder. But yeah, with like, if you just do the work, it's really not hard. So
that's pretty crazy to say, because I think a lot of people struggled during Augie because it's a pretty tough school to go to. I struggled with a lot of the classes.
I've heard some people, or was it Wade or like someone else told me that Augie is known for like more rigorous academics, which I guess, because some other state school could be really easy, but for me it was just like it was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just so. Yeah. And again, that's great that you were able to, even though it would have been nice maybe if you had a little bit more freedom and flexibility in Vietnam, but the fact that you were able to build those habits, I think, that will last you the rest of your life now.
Yeah.
You know that anytime you need to turn it on and really study or just get work done, you know that you can sit down and do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one thing that I had to adjust to, I feel like, to the US is that you have to kind of be more of your own person in a way that at home things almost just get decided for you. Like, I'm supposed to study this, I'm supposed to go to this class, I'm supposed to follow these steps. But here you have more freedom, like if you don't want to study, you don't have to study, like whatever comes out of it is going to fall on you, but you are free to decide whatever you want to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the American way.
Yeah.
Freedom, baby.
And individualism.
Yes.
Yeah. Really, like, oh, you gotta like show people who you are. You're like unique and your identity is important, which, it's good. But it's definitely a culture shock at first, right?
It's really interesting to hear someone that has come from like the upbringing that you have and the difference in culture, because to me, coming from Australia, it always has been, you got to express yourself. You are unique. You have own different strengths and talents. You can do whatever you want. Just pick what you want to do and chase your dreams. But then it's completely different to you. That's something that you've had to adjust to, which I find completely fascinating.
Yeah. Because, at home, you study to go to college, and then after college, you get a job, and whatever job you can get, you're going to stick with it. Like, there's only a certain amount of jobs that you could have, like accountant, doctor, teacher, lawyer, so on and so forth, like really basic jobs. And you're not really, like, nobody really asks you, like, hey, what do you feel passionate about? Like, nobody ever mentions like chasing your dream or like your passion, because you're almost like just doing the same thing as everybody else. But then when you come here, they're like, okay, but what do you want? And then I'm just like, I really don't know. My whole life, I've only been doing what people tell me I should do. So I never really had the space to like express myself per se. So like in that sense, the time that I spent at Augie was one of like really like the transformation that I went through to become like my own person.
And to really find yourself.
Yeah.
To understand yourself, become self-aware.
Because I didn't even like really think about who I am, right? Because I was just doing things that everybody else was doing. Like I never had the time or the space to think. So in that sense, yeah.
This is really great. I reckon we should just keep diving deeper into this. So which do you think is better then? Do you like the approach where things are sort of mapped out for you and like sort of the Vietnam style where it's a bit more structured, you know, not choosing passions per se, but very particular jobs that are going to earn you a good living? Or do you like the free flow of the US and being able to find yourself, express yourself and be an individual?
Probably like a balance would be good, because expressing yourself is very important, like, or just finding out your strengths and weaknesses, like your passions and things that, you know, get you going is really important. Because now that I have a job and I'm going to work, all that, I realize that like the rest of my life is just going to be with myself, right? Like there's really no point doing something that I don't like and don't enjoy. Because when I'm old and I think back, I don't want to be like, oh, I spent 40 years working for nothing. So like having the freedom to figure out who you are and what you like and what your passions are really important. But with that, I feel like some kind of structure and like guidance is always good to like know where to start or like what to do. So I find comfort in like the familiarity of structure.
Well, I think that's what you'd sort of, if I could just sort of fill in the gaps of what you're saying, is that structure is almost like advice from people who have come before you.
Yeah.
So like parents and elders.
Yeah.
Which I think, and sadly, I would say in sort of, let's just say the US as an example, I feel like there's a lot of that is being disregarded at the moment with the younger generation coming through. It's sort of like, well, we're, you know, doing our own thing. Like we don't need people to tell us what to do. Mm-hmm. But I do think that's a problem in itself, because people have lived long lives and they have that life experience, which us young people don't have. So I think it is very important to actually listen to that and not necessarily take the advice, but take it in and really think critically about it. I think there is a problem where it goes too far the other way and we just push it aside.
Yeah. And it's almost like you just like disregarding everything that has come before and just, which, you know, is good. Like times are changing and new jobs are being created and new things are being invented. But there's like always wisdom in the past.
So what do you think is the advantage of a more structured system, say like in Vietnam?
I guess the good thing is like, even if you don't know what you want and what you like, what you want to do and like who you are, if you kind of just follow the guidelines, you will get somewhere. Like you won't end up on the street. You won't end up like ruining your life somehow. You'll end up with like a job or like some kind of living, and so the stability is there. You just have to listen to what your adults are telling you, and you'll get somewhere.
Right, so it's a little bit easier just to follow that path and then not have to make up your own path.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does success look like for you then?
It's definitely changed over the year, because it started with just literally like being good at school, things like that, excel at academics, get a good job, make some money. That was like literally what success was, or like in a more like definite term, like if you're able to stay in the US and find a job and live here, that was success. Right. But now that's becoming like a reality for me. Like I'm living here and I'm working here. It feels kind of empty. because
you've reached that big goal that you've been moving towards for so long.
Yeah, now I'm here and then I'm like, now what? Like, what else? I'm only like 22. I have these many years to like live with myself and explore things. So now I need like the term success is very like subjective, or I think it should be subjective. Right.
That's very wise. And I think that's something that I've started to realize, particularly this year. I've been considering what I'm actually working towards.
Yeah.
It's all very good. I've had a year of big growth in terms of all the video work that I've been doing. I've been putting lots of hours and time into that. But I've sacrificed so much like social and fitness part of my being by choosing to do all of that. But then I reflect on this year and I think, well, if I was to continue doing this, would I be fulfilled? And the clear answer is no. So I think there's a lot more to defining success than just earning lots of money or becoming really good at something.
Exactly. And it's like, I feel like all we chase, like whether through like money, success, status, relationships, is literally just to feel like some kind of peace and contentment when you're like sit down with yourself. Because if like all of that gets stripped away, you're almost like this, you don't know what you're doing, like why you're here, what you're working for, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of, I guess that's like a little existential crisis that I have once in a while.
Well, I think we all have it. I've certainly had that many times.
Yeah. Like, for a long time, I thought that if I like make a lot of money and live in a big house, things will be good, but like not really. After that initial excitement, you're just going to go back to base level of like, okay, then what?
And that's where it becomes very much all about the process and the journey that you are on.
Yeah.
You have to find fulfillment within that, because I believe strongly that there is no working hard just to get to this point and then I'll be happy or then I'll be fulfilled.
Yeah.
It is sort of an ongoing process that you have to cater for.
Yeah. Like now I'm just like, if at the end of the day, I feel good about what I did and like what I'm moving towards, I'd call that success.
That seems like a good definition to me.
Yeah. Because time passes by so quick. Right? I can't believe I spent 4 years at Augie and now I'm here. I can't even like think about what has happened the last 4 years because it's just so quick. And you just, once you get into the motion and you get like, I get tunnel vision. Like when I start college, my goal is to get a job. So that's all I focus on. Now that I had a job, I'm just like, now what? Because then things start coming into your peripheral. Like I don't have that tunnel vision. I'm out of the tunnel now. Now I see the lights, and then just the big surrounding that I'm left with, and I have the choice to do whatever I want. I can keep working at this job. I can find a new job. I can just get out of the US and go somewhere else. Right? But it's like, I don't know what to do because there's so many things I can do.
Which is a great position to be in. You've got opportunities and you've got options of things that you can do.
Yeah. But it's also scary too, because if I pick something and it doesn't go right, it's all on me. It's not like I can blame the system anymore. Like if I was in Vietnam and I'm like, yeah, this is all your fault because you told me to do all these things, but now it's like it's entirely up to me. So
the power is in your hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's exciting.
I guess. But also like you feel like you have all these choices, but not really, because I'm still scared about like, okay, what it's gonna look like in 5 years, 10 years. Where am I going to be? And like things like stability and like finances still kind of, weigh you down a little bit. So
absolutely.
Yeah. I can't just up and leave because I have to worry about like 5-10 years down the line. Yeah.
You've got other responsibilities. You've got cats running around.
I know.
You've got an apartment.
I'm like, I need to make money so I can feed my cats.
That's a new definition of success. If you can do that, everything else is fulfilled.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, well, you've been living here with Marcus, and like we spoke about in his episode, you guys were just friends. I knew you guys as just friends, and then all of a sudden, I think Max visited you guys in Vietnam, and he saw you guys holding hands. He's like, oh.
Wait, he didn't know?
What's going on here? He didn't know.
Until he saw us in Vietnam?
Yep.
That's so funny. Well,
yeah, we had no idea.
Also because we don't like advertise our relationship. Like, I don't go posting on Instagram. He doesn't post on his Instagram. Like, so like everyone at Augie knew because they saw us all the time. But like if you weren't there, it makes sense that you didn't know. But that was funny.
So I'd like to hear from your perspective how things developed.
Well, I mean, just the most basic way that you can meet another person, I guess. We were in the same friend group, so we're just, had a lot of time.
You guys had a great friend group.
Yeah, we did. I miss Jerry. Yeah.
It was you, Marcus, Jerry, Sasha, Emily, Brittany.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a crew.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. So, I mean, we just saw each other a lot of times because we hang out, and then it just kind of happened. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, not like a big epic like drama
One
story.
Pivotal moment that changed everything.
I know, no. Very boring.
Boring's good. Boring can work.
Yeah.
And you guys seem to be living a great life here together in Minneapolis.
Yeah. Which is also like another thing that I never expect is to find like a partner in college. I mean, a lot of people meet their like partner in college, but you don't expect these kind of things to happen, and it just happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very special.
Yeah. I guess another reason why I don't regret going to Augie.
Well, I mean, that reason alone is pretty big.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And you guys have been on quite the adventure as well. You did a bit of a trip earlier this year, you went to Europe.
Yes.
How was that?
That was so fun. That wasn't the first time I was in Europe, but that was like the first time that I got to explore because we just had like a backpack and we were taking trains everywhere. That trip made me feel like living is worth it because you don't really think about like everyday life. Like you just kind of going through the motion and time just passes and you don't really nothing really stuck with you. But like traveling is one of those things that makes me feel like this is what I'm working for. Like I'm going to work and I'm making money to do these kind of things.
100%, because you often don't remember the day-to-day of things, but you remember those moments where, I know you went to Marcus's place in Norway. Well, like, how cool is that? That's so sick.
Climbing mountains, seeing people, like walking through Amsterdam.
Catching all the trains everywhere. Just with one backpack that weighs 15 kilos.
Yeah. I definitely got stronger during that trip with carrying that backpack and just walking like 20 kilometers a day. But yeah, that was really fun.
And I feel exactly the same way with traveling. And when I was in Vietnam traveling around, I was just backpacking everywhere. And that is by far the most free and liberated I've ever felt in my life. Just because I could do anything I wanted to. Everything's pretty cheap. The food is delicious. I can just get around on a motorbike, which I can rent for $10 a day. Don't need a license. Sometimes I wear a helmet and just gun it and go see what's going on. Yeah. Just interact with people and live the best life.
I think freedom is the most important thing that I get, like from different experiences, because you are not trapped by anything. Right? Like here, I'm like, I have to wake up at this hour. I have to show up to work at this hour. I have to submit these kind of things. I have to do these things. But like when I was traveling, it was like the day was entirely up to me. Nobody was telling me what I should or should not do. And I was free to explore and just jump into an adventure and see where it takes me. Right? That's where like I feel like all the excitement of life comes from.
I think you get a lot of that too by traveling to a different country to study there as well.
Yeah.
Will you say not as much?
Well, I definitely have a lot more freedom over here than if I was at home, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it is free within a constraint, right? Because I still need to fulfill things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are there any places that you want to travel to really bad?
I think next on my list is like Japan and China.
Yeah. Japan is like
Japan looks
probably top 2 on my list.
Yeah. Japan is probably top 1 right now. Once I get Japan done, then maybe other things.
So you've never been to Japan before?
No.
That's right next to Vietnam though. Just a short flight.
Yeah, 4-hour flight. But I guess it's just like Japan was kind of more expensive to travel to. So we never really got to go to Japan. We mostly like went to like within Vietnam, or like a lot of people go to like Thailand and stuff. But to do like a Japan trip, you have to save up quite a lot of money. But now that I'm making US dollars.
There you go. You got them US dollars.
I know. If I make Vietnamese money and I want to go to Japan, that's like a little hard. Like I'll probably have to save up for like at least a solid 5 years. But like here, I'm making US dollars. It's not that bad. Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah. So
bring it back to your time at Augie.
Mm-hmm.
Because we haven't really talked much about the specifics of what actually happened at Augie. But is there any moments at all that you wanted to share? Anything just at the top of your head? Any good memories you had with people?
I had lots of good memories, but it's so hard to like pinpoint one. But I guess a general category of like enjoyable moments, or like when I spend time with like other international students. So like I have my best friends or all international students, I feel like. Yeah, so just being able to like spend time with them, and like we had a potluck for Thanksgiving, like the Thanksgiving of my senior year, and we were just like maybe like 15 people just cooking our own food and bring it into the dorm and share it together. That was really fun. And
you get 10 or so different cuisines from all over the world.
It was not Thanksgiving food at all. It was all over the place, but that was really special. And I always like the trips I take with friends to different states. That was fun. So like, yeah, traveling.
There you go. Traveling and people.
Traveling and people. Yeah, that about sums it up.
That's what it all comes down to.
Yeah. If I could travel full time and meet people and somehow make a living out of it, I probably would.
Yeah, I'm sure you can do it.
Yeah, maybe someday.
It'll happen. Don't you worry.
Mm-hmm.
Just planning, preparation. It's all part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, Harley, it's time for my favorite question. If you could sum up your experience at Augie with a letter grade, what would you give it?
A.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think an A is good.
Why would you give it that?
Like why A and not B, or like why A and not A plus?
Yeah, both. So it's not quite an A plus.
Well, like for everything that I went into college thinking that I'm gonna like accomplish, like, you know, like a job, which was basically the most important thing. I mean, I got a job. So my goals were fulfilled. But like outside of jobs, I also met my best friends that I'm gonna stay in contact with for the rest of my life. And I met Marcus, and I feel like those kinds of things are rare It's like one of those things that I realized once I've spent enough time here is to meet the people that I love and like feel like we connect on a deeper level. Those occurrences are rare. So for all the people I meet, it's definitely an A. Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah.
And if there's any advice you could give to someone, let's go specifically to Vietnam. Someone in Vietnam thinking, should I go to a different country and study? Should I go to the US and study? What sort of advice would you give that person?
Definitely study overseas, because the growth that you experience is something that I feel like you're not going to experience unless you go really, really far and like see how it's like to be on your own and kind of build it up from there. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about life in general when you're not close to your families and not having anyone to rely on at first. But also take the time to really think about who you are. Like, just don't go into it like me of like, which, I mean, it's okay at first, but you're going to have to take time and think about what you want to do for the rest of your life. Like, find your definition of success and fulfillment and work towards it. Yeah.
Fantastic advice. Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else that has sparked your memory as we've been talking? This is just open floor question. Anything that you want to share from your experience at Augustana?
I don't know if there's anything else I'd like to share, but maybe I would just say, just put yourself out there and don't be afraid to like, just be who you are and don't worry about like what other people think of you, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. Like, how you think of yourself is the most important thing, because you're going to live with yourself for the rest of your life and people come and go. So being able to live with yourself and be happy with who you are and where you're at is very important. Because then you can, like, once you stop worrying about what other people think of you, you will start, like, actually making true connections. Yeah.
Love it. And I was going to ask you earlier, but I forgot to, but I've noted it down. Mm-hmm. The hardest part of your time at Augie, was there a moment that you struggled the most?
Definitely was. COVID. I never really got homesick. Like, I left home from a really young age, but I always thought of myself as a really like independent kid. Like, I don't miss home to the point that I feel sad. But during COVID and after like Marcus has left and I was like truly, truly alone with myself, I was really, really homesick. Like, I really feel like I was alone. And if something were to happen to me, like if I were to get sick or something, like there was nobody that I could call on to help me. So that was a struggle.
And how did you get through that?
There were some other people that were in the same situation as me, like stuck alone on campus. So I had them to rely on. So that was what got me through it, for sure. And knowing that, you know, the IPO was still there. If there was something that was going to happen, they at least will be there for me. And just kind of, that was like the most time I ever spent with myself. So I really had the time to kind of reflect and kind of know myself a little more.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to touch on that because, I mean, from the most part, it seems like it was a positive experience. Sometimes the environment you're put in, like the small high school in Wisconsin and still a pretty small college at Augie, mm-hmm. but just those hard moments, like they do exist.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's important to share those to show that, hey, you can come out the other side. Like whether they last for just a little bit or like a whole year or 2 years or the whole time you're there.
Yeah.
I think it's important to know that there's people around you who share the same experiences and you can get through them.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And whatever you're struggling with, there are other people who are also struggling. Like, you're never alone in your struggles. So knowing that by itself, like, helped me through a lot of things. Because I'm like, I know that this is just temporary. It's going to pass. And what doesn't kill you really makes you stronger. So, yeah, you'll get through it.
Awesome. Thank you, Harley. And thank you for letting me set up in your beautiful apartment here in Minneapolis.
Anytime.
It's been great to catch up with you. Thank you for coming back to college with me.
Thank you for having me.
Hey yo.
Yay.
Done.